I hope you can see me. Hi. There we go. I'm Mike Morales. You are listening and watching Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our platforms. I'm here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
Ground Zero, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We have been social distancing as the government has required us to do, but we've been doing that anyway. But we drink and we social distance. And tonight we have one that you may or may not have seen. Okay,
Yeah.
it's called Toro de Lidia. Those toros de Lidia. What that refers to is purebred bulls for bullfighting. These are
Okay.
that's the term that they use when bulls are raised and bred for bullfighting, which is kind of frowned upon now these days, but it
Yeah.
has been it has a long heritage in Mexico. And this I want to make, before we go into the stats and stories, I want to make sure that this is actually from the same distillery. The cool part, oh, this is kosher. Hey, right on. 1531.
Mm-hmm.
And it is imported by WT Imports, who was nice enough. Yep, Rivesca. It is the same in Amatitan. It's the same distillery that brought us what we fell all over ourselves in,
Yeah.
Rejon. So let's, before we go into those stats and stories, let's just pour it and taste it and see what we got, man. I'm gonna
I'm
use my
excited.
jarrito for tequila, and we just broke the seal on it. You might be able to see this neck tag. It actually won I believe that is a silver medal at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2017. So it's not a slouch.
No.
Have you ever been a judge at the San Francisco show?
No. No. It's
You have to have good negotiating skills to be a
yeah.
judge, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a. They
So
have a. It's a more elite group, I would say.
elite group?
Yeah.
What? No, man, that has nothing to do with elitism. That I think that's code for, that's your safe word, isn't it? Well, I've got some really pretty legs and tears.
Yeah.
Very natural, it's just running, not clinging too much.
Mm-hmm.
But you're using your handy dandy Glencairn.
That's right.
Oh wow, nice nose on that though.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is an 80 proof, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's
40 ABV.
40% alcohol or 80 proof. Some interesting things, that they tell us in the sell sheet that they don't use any added yeast during fermentation. It's all spontaneous or natural fermentation, which you don't see a lot in tequila, but more in, say, like artisanal mezcal. So get a nice, real like tropical fruit character going on in the nose.
It's not muted, which is really interesting because the the it the aromas that I'm getting
Hmm.
normally we picked up in a tequila with a higher ABV, with a higher
Yeah.
alcohol content, and this is just right there.
Yeah.
Uh, It's not hiding; it's right there in front of you.
Yeah. It's got some nice like minerality going on in the nose. There's a little bit of like sort of like cooked sweet potato, something sweet,
Baked.
sugar baked.
That's
Yeah.
what agave smells like, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 It smells like, I tell people who have never smelled it. I said,
Yeah.
imagine pumpkin pie. Imagine you're walking into a bakery and it's Thanksgiving season and everybody's baking pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
That's what it smells like.
Yeah. So that's all there on the nose.
All
But
right.
it's
Well,
light body to it. So let's drink.
yeah, let's drink it. Mhm. Oh my God. Oh, oh, wow. Wow.
So it's got a lot going on. It's really nice flavor.
Yes.
Got some sweetness to it. Finish has a dry minerality towards the back end. Mid palate, there's just a lot of fruit, like a
Yes.
lot of like orange juice and maybe like guava, something kind of slightly tropical.
Mango, maybe? Would you say mango or not?
Maybe, yeah, maybe slightly
Well,
underripe mango.
yeah. The longer I held it in my palate before swallowing, the sweeter it became.
Yeah,
And it wasn't hot. There's not a real lot of hot pepper,
no,
like on the back end or anything like
no,
that. And um, I'm kind of dumbfounded because, like you said, that there's only one other tequila, maybe two, that I know of. Actually, probably only one that uses fiber when they ferment.
mm.
That's Fortaleza, but
Mhm.
Fortaleza is made with a Taona. To
Yeah.
my knowledge, this is not.
No, they from what I've read elsewhere, they are using a roller mill.
Okay, all right, that's cool. But if they're using the fibers to ferment, and it's natural fermentation, it just takes longer. So
Yeah.
it stands to reason that that pumpkin pie, that baked
Yeah.
potato yam thing that you're getting is
Yeah.
from the fibers.
Yeah. I think there's a lot really positive going on here, though, to be honest, I do feel like the 40% is a touch low for it. I think if this came in even at like 41 or 42, the flavor intensity would be a lot better. It's good. There's a lot of really nice flavors here, but I just feel like it's just a tad shy of like really being like really wowing me. But I
Well,
like it. I like it, but it's just I think it's just like a
it's
hair,
toned down. You're
a
saying is
little
it's toned
a little
down?
bit. Yeah.
Um, this is the stablemate to Rejon,
Yeah.
and Rejon were
And we
hot.
love that. That was 46. And so,
Yeah,
that was,
yeah,
that was a powerhouse.
across the board too, which was,
Yeah.
I kept messing it up because I thought that all the other ones, but it's at a higher ABV. This reminds me, and I thought it would. I hadn't had any. I mean, you can tell I
Yeah.
haven't touched it. When it was brought to my attention, there's a small distributor in South Texas that brought it to me and said, "I want you to taste this." He had several bottles from one importer.
Yeah.
Um, I have subsequently gotten more in touch with the importer, and I when we saw Rejon and we tasted it, we loved it. And I said, this reminds me a lot of Regional years and years ago. That was the stablemate to Azuña when they both came from the same distillery. As far
Yeah.
as I know, Regional is no longer made. And this is what I thought Azuña was even softer than this, and Azuña was made in a Matitan, where this tequila is coming from. The nom on this, just to give you some particulars on this, um, the nom is let's see here, 1531. It is Rivesca, bottled and produced at Rivesca SA. I believe there's only a handful of their own brands that are coming out of this distillery.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is an 80 proof. Um, I hadn't noticed until a little while ago that the Blanco is considered kosher. It is certified kosher, which
Yeah.
makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And it is. They're calling it lowlands, but I know it's a valley. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, agaves take 6 to 8 years to mature. All the labels are hand rolled, and yeah, they say that the Revesca, they ferment for 7 to 10 days,
Yeah, so there's something going on in the flavor that it took me a little bit to kind of put my finger on, and I think I got it.
Okay.
So if you've ever had sake or sochu, which is basically a distilled rice spirit with
Right.
other stuff, there's a there's a there's a real light like melon character in the tequila that's reminiscent of that. And what I think might be going on is in sake and sochu production, they're using a fungus to basically, or like a mold to
Right.
break down the starch and so that it can be fermented and all that. So with the natural fermentation, I think what might be partly going on is I've seen in, say, like in Oaxaca, after the agaves are roasted, some mezcaleros will leave the agaves out and let them mold a little bit, which continues to break down some of the fibers and some of the residual sugars and
Hmm.
make it more fermentable. And it adds complexity to the flavor. And so I'm not saying they're adding mold during their
No,
fermentation, but there's something very natural going on that's not probably not just regular yeast, but other things going on that during the fermentation process that's contributing to this like really light, bright flavor that it has, which I think is really nice
yes.
and is reminiscent to me of these like rice spirits where they're using koji as as like the starch breakdown
Yeah, yeah.
mechanism. So anyway, it was just a thought, something I'm getting in the nose and on the palate that I thought was really interesting.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? I know I have one of my favorite videos that I have is of uh, Ron Cooper
Hmm.
explaining uh, what the elements in the air and the environment that affect open air fermentation. And he said
Right.
every 1,000 meters or something, I'll have to relook at the video again. But every so many meters, there's other elements in the air that affect
Mm,
open air fermentation. And so,
yeah.
are you a believer in that? Because I have heard, for instance, that some of the flavor profiles in open air fermentation, like at Vivanco 1414, that the secret to some of the flavor profiles is all the orange trees, the citrus trees in the
Yeah.
environment that add to that. So there's no telling. That's why I asked you about mango or something, because mangoes grow everywhere.
Right.
I know Cofradia is surrounded by mango trees, for instance.
Hmm.
You know, you'll find that some of these distilleries are very quiet places, very beautiful orchards that grow there, not just their agave,
Yeah.
but surrounding the distillery, because everything in the atmosphere, if they're going to open air ferment and not
Yeah.
add yeast, that is also going to affect the environment. Would you say that like the mezcaleros, whatever's in the environment, would you say that maybe there's some fruit tree or some element where the distillery is that is affecting the fermentation and
Yeah.
that
Yeah. So it's the environment does play a role in, what's happening with during fermentation with the spontaneous or natural ferment. So whether there's, say there's trees around, but say it's spring, so they're blooming, that's going to affect, the yeast that's floating through the air versus, when it's winter time and more things are dormant. Did they have a rainstorm recently? Did it not? Has it been dry for a while? Like all those things, like especially when I was talking with mezcaleros, all of those elements, seasonal elements, change things in addition to like the surrounding flora around the distillery, would have an impact. So yeah, all that I think is at play, which is why I think if you can commit to natural fermentation, there's so much potential for incredible flavor development that you just won't get with commercial yeast. And so, and that's one of the beauties of fermenting and distilling things is that when you have nature playing this role and lending its hand, and you sort of guiding it along in sort of the best way possible, then you can get some fantastic results.
would you
Um,
Would you agree with me then that this is a Brand of Promise nominee?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think this is a really nice example of a Blanco tequila, really bright. It's got some nice acidity on it. So even like after you've had a sip, like you want to come back to it. It just doesn't like you put it down, you're like, let's take it or leave it, right? No, it's inviting you to come back. I think it's really well made. Just my only like quibble, again, it's very small, is I think if it was just a little bit stronger, the flavor intensity would be much better. Though I think it's the flavors that are here are really nice.
Yeah, I think it's very complex. It's very approachable, very sippable. I think also by the same token, it would do really well like in a refreshing, with Paloma or
Yeah,
soda. I think
yeah,
the flavor profile is strong enough to stand up to
yeah.
some.
This with soda and like a little squeeze of lime, like that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there we go. That's our first take on Toro de Lidia.
Yeah.
That's it. And you have the dark bull. Oh no, I have a dark bull too. Your bull is a lot darker than mine. What is that about? But
It's the camera. I think that's what it is.
I think so. It might be. Yeah, it might be there we go.
Clear bottles look really pretty in person. They're hard to capture through the cameras.
Yeah, they look completely different in the camera. But anyway, that's our take on Toro de Lidia Blanco. That's an 80 proof. It's from what my understanding is, from what I heard from the importer yesterday, and I'm going to read this for you so that people here in Texas can figure out where they can get it. It is, let's see here. He told me, oh, here we go. Alamo City may have it. Also, Sam's Liquor in Laredo. And New York City has Rejon, but specs all over Texas. So if you can find it online, and I'm sure we fell all over ourselves because of the pricing. So I'm sure that this pricing has got to be even more than that. And for a beautiful sipper, I'd say go get it. Just back up the truck and take them all off the shelf. Take it, pretend it's toilet paper, and get it all off the shelf. Oh my God. I'm Mike Morales. You've been listening and watching to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. I'm here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandone, Vancouver, Washington.
Don't forget to like and hit the notification bell if you're watching us on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe if you're listening to us as well. Do that. And hey, whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.